Hi students, Mr. Z here, and today we're going to learn about the difference between prokaryote and eukaryote cells, and maybe you remember some of this from 6th grade. How do you tell the difference between each one of those, a prokaryote from a eukaryote? All right, today we're going to learn how to use this picture to help you remember the main differences between a prokaryote. The cell over here up at the top is a prokaryote, and the cell on the bottom is a eukaryote. The prokaryote is a very primitive cell. It's been around a long time. It was one of the first cells to begin on our Earth. So prokaryotes are very ancient, and I have this picture of a dinosaur to kind of indicate that prokaryotes come from very ancient times, and they are still around. The next thing about prokaryotes is they're very tiny. You're going to need a microscope to see one. They're microscopic. And the reason they're microscopic is they're just made of one cell. They're just one cell, that's the size of them. And because of that, they're called unicellular. Unicellular. Now, it is alive, it is an organism. It meets the 7 characteristics of an organism. And because it reproduces, then it must have DNA. So inside the cell, floating around like a spaghetti strand throughout the entire cell, is the DNA. And this is what we call the DNA. This is what makes our eyes green, ears long or short, uh, a dimple or no dimples, black hair or brown hair. This is what governs those type of traits when you reproduce, all caused by your DNA. And so all that genetic information, DNA is known as genetic information, is stored inside the unicellular cell, just openly, just free floating around. Next, let's talk about the eukaryote. Now, the eukaryote is slightly roundish, almost looks like a ball sometimes. Not a perfect ball, but in that general shape. Um, and the prokaryote looks like a little animal. It actually uses its tail to swim. And some eukaryote cells do have tails, but this one does not. But they generally have the same shape. Um, the DNA of a eukaryote cell is stored inside a neatly packaged uh, part of the cell called the nucleus. It is a container that holds the DNA. So here's a big difference here. DNA in a prokaryote just floats throughout the whole cell. However, in a eukaryote cell, the DNA only floats around inside the nucleus. It is contained by a membrane that goes around this. Now, this is actually a cross cut. So there's a whole little circular shape. Part of it is missing that would go like this, and inside the nucleus is the DNA. And the skin that surrounds that nucleus is called a membrane. So often in tests, you may come across a word choice or answer choice that says something that has a membrane nucleus. With a cell that has a membrane around its nucleus or a membrane bound nucleus, would it be a eukaryote or would it be a prokaryote? And so we know in prokaryotes the DNA just floats around the entire cell, but in a eukaryote, it does float inside its membrane bound nucleus. So that would be an answer choice that you might want to remember. This bag right here is a membrane surrounding the sandwich. Hopefully that helps you jog your memory that Eukaryotes have membranes around their nucleus. Another thing about eukaryote cells is they are multicellular. So things that are multicellular, organisms that are multicellular, like plants, like animals, like humans, um, something you would not need a microscope to see, are multicellular. In other words, made up of more than one cell. All right, well, hope this refreshes your memory. You will be drawing this uh, graphic organizer in your journal and labeling it. Feel free to come back to the video to review and get the answers to the fill in the blanks that you're going to see. All right, over and out.